Hi, and thanks for joining me today.
So today we'll be talking about clefs. Of course, clef is French for key, but naturally we're not going to be talking about the kind of keys that you see here. Rather, we'll be talking about these kinds of keys, or of course clefs, as we refer to them in music. I have here a definition of the word clef. This is from Wikipedia, but I think it's a good one. Clef, which as we said is from the French word clef, which means key, is a musical symbol used to indicate the pitch of written notes. It is placed on one of the lines at the beginning of the staff. It indicates the name and pitch of the notes on that line. This line serves as a reference point by which the names of the notes on any other line or space of the staff may be determined. And it's worth mentioning, parenthetically, as it does here, that only one clef that references a note in a space rather than a line has ever been used historically. And today, none of that one is not in use anymore. So only lines.
So it may be that you've wondered why we use clefs to begin with. Well, if you look at the totality of musical expressions, especially from one instrument to another, the complete range of pitches and frequencies is really quite large, but the musical staff itself has only 5 lines and 4 spaces. Let's take a closer look. So the piano, as well as its relatives like the organ and the harpsichord, are really good means of showing the wide range of notes that are available to us in music today. So we have here a musical staff. Is it possible for us to represent all the notes on the piano that we just saw? Well, let's see. Let's designate this middle line for middle C. Okay, if we do that, then the note here would become D, the note here becomes E, then F, then G, and so on. And similarly in the other direction. Okay, so if you go C, D, E, F, G, so this would be the A above middle C. This would be a B, an A, a G, an F, and an E. This would be the E below middle C. Okay? Let's see what happens when we take that to our next image.
In our previous image, we went as far as the space right above and right below the staff. In this picture, we see what happens if we go 5 ledger lines above and below the staff. And as we're about to see, even this is still insufficient to cover the entire range of music in which we're interested.
For the next part of this presentation, I'm going to use only a limited part of the piano, starting at middle C, going down 2 octaves to this low C, and then 2 octaves up to this C. Okay, so the 2 notes that are demonstrated on the screen, the uppermost note is here, and the lowermost note is here. Okay, notice that there's still plenty more notes above this one, and plenty more notes below this one.
Pictured here is an example of written music. This is an excerpt from the violin part from one of the classical chamber music repertoire inclusions. Now there are 2 things that are evident here. One is you'll notice, especially on the last line, there are a number of notes that go very far above the staff with lots of those additional lines, ledger lines. And for most people, a very quick glance at a note like that, it's still very difficult to identify what it is. So there's a question of quickly and readily identifying notes that are too far away from the staff. The other thing that can potentially come into play is you'll notice that, again on the bottom line, those notes are getting closer and closer to the previous line of music that's above it. In certain cases, it could happen that the 2 lines of music will start to actually interfere with each other because they're kind of straying too far from the staff lines themselves. So those are kind of the 2 problems that we would have if we always had to use the same system or the same clef, if you will, for all music.
Next time in part 2, we'll talk about the individual clefs, the different kinds, and how they're used. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know by leaving them here or contacting me at my website. Thanks again for joining me today, and I hope to see you again next time.